So Justice League is a movie that I, along with many other superhero fans around the world, have been waiting so long to see. Just to see all these superheroes come together as a team finally on the big screen was something that I was really getting excited for. And after seeing the film, I really liked it. I enjoyed myself in this movie. I mean, it's not the best movie in DC's cinematic universe. I think that title will go to either Wonder Woman or Man of Steel, in my opinion. But this movie is a lot of fun, and it's something that I think that was missing from the DC cinematic universe, minus Wonder Woman, was the fun aspect of a superhero film, and they brought it in this movie. And there's so much talk about them injecting more humor into this universe and into this movie, and they really go for it with this, and it works for the most part. There's a lot of times where the joke really works, but then there are other times where it kind of falls flat and didn't hit quite as hard as the other jokes. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the humor that was brought in this film. And what really works for me in this movie is the team. The team works so well together, and I feel like Warner Bros. Allowed these characters to be themselves and let them carry the film. It's something that Patty Jenkins did really well in Wonder Woman. Let Wonder Woman be who she is, and she'll just take this movie in places that you really want to see, and she carried that entire film. That's what this movie does, for me at least, is that it allows the characters to be who they are and let them carry the film on their shoulders, and it really works for me in this movie. And a lot of that chemistry had to do with the actor performances, and everybody really has a solid performance in this film. Ben Affleck is fantastic as Batman again. I mean, he brought it in Batman v Superman, and it bleeds over into Justice League. And I like this character arc that he went through between these two movies and how he views the world in Batman v Superman, now how he's come to view it in Justice League. I really like that art. Gal Gadot is fantastic as Wonder Woman again. She's really come into her own as an actress, and really, especially as this character. I mean, she was fantastic as Wonder Woman, and a lot of what her character goes through in that film really carries over into this film, and it shows the consequences of what she went through in her standalone film, and why she views the world the way she does in this film. And makes for a really great character arc for her as well. But it was Ezra Miller that stole this entire movie for me. I mean, he's definitely the comic relief out of all the cast. The entire cast does have their own small humorous moments, but for the most part, most of the comic relief falls on his shoulders, and I think he did a really good job with it. I mean, he does have these smaller, more dramatic scenes that you see in the trailer with him and his father in prison. And I'm a big, CW Flash fan, so I'm really glad they got that aspect of Flash in there. But for the most part, Ezra Miller does a fantastic job as the Flash, and I'm really looking forward to his standalone film, which I think is going to be The Flashpoint, and can't wait to see what he does with that and how all these other characters sort of blend into that movie. But back to this film, I really like how they were able to balance out between each of the characters. I mean, one of my big worries was that they were going to try to do way too much, and there's going to be too many characters and not a lot of backstory for each of them. And we've seen Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman in their own films, and we get enough of their backstory, so we really don't have to worry about them. But I was really worried about Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg, and we weren't getting enough from those characters to really get invested in them. But for the most part, they were able to give us enough backstory to care about them and get them together and work as a team really well. I'm really glad that they were able to find that balance. But again, this movie isn't perfect, and there are some flaws that I don't think they outweigh the good in this movie. There is so much to love about this film, but there are things that I have a little gripes with, and one of them is the villain. I just think that aside from a handful of villains in any superhero movie, we haven't gotten any great villains, and like superhero movies really struggle with their villain nowadays. And for this movie, the Justice League has to go up against Steppenwolf. I mean, there's this whole big rich history behind him in the comic books, but they really don't address that in this movie. I mean, he's just kind of this big CG monster bad guy. He's big and he's strong, and that's about it. And I would argue that that's not what this movie is about. For me, this movie was about the team and getting the team together and working as the Justice League. Thankfully, that they did that very well, is that they allowed the heroes, again, to carry this film. And that's what this movie is about. It's not necessarily about the villain. And that was kind of one of my gripes about it. I really wish they would have just given a little bit more for him to do, but I'm kind of contradicting myself a bit. Like, I'm glad that they did this with the heroes, but they didn't play too much about the villain. But if that's the trade-off for this movie, I'm glad they did that, because again, it's about the heroes. It's not so much about the villain. For the most part, the tone is pretty consistent throughout this film. It doesn't feel like two different eyes on this film that made this movie to come to life. But I will say that it is a drastically different tone from Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, and I do like this new tone that they're going for. It's a little bit more light. It's a little bit more like a superhero film, but I felt like there are a couple moments in this movie where the movie was just begging to be a bit more dramatic, and when it gets to that point, it sort of just cuts off and goes to the next thing. Because Warner Brothers was really adamant about this movie not going over 2 hours, and the runtime is like 1 hour and 59 minutes, which is cutting it really close to that 2 hour mandate by Warner Brothers. And to me, I felt like this movie needed to be over 2 hours, because they're trying to do so much in this film that they needed that extra maybe 20 to 30 minutes to flesh out a couple scenes that will have the pacing of this film be a little bit more consistent, because in the beginning, and especially in a couple other scenes, this movie moves so fast that you didn't allow the characters or the scenes to breathe and let them develop and really hone in those dramatic moments. Because again, there are so many moments where I felt like the movie was begging to bring the drama a bit further and just complete the scene a bit more. And because there's several scenes here where it just cuts off and it's like, whoa, okay, that got resolved really fast. But like, again, it's because of that 2 hour mandate. And there's several times where I see movies and like, wow, that should have just been 30 minutes shorter. In this case, I feel this movie should have been 30 minutes longer. I mean, I would have been fine with that. I mean, I'm glad that it does move a bit quicker and it's not a drag of a movie. But I think in this case, that extra 30 minutes really would have helped this film, because cutting it down to under 2 hours really hurt this film, and you see it in the pacing. And because of the pacing, you don't get to see certain scenes be completed, and the entire movie, it doesn't feel rushed, but it feels really quick. Because after seeing this movie, all I want is more. I can't wait to see this film again, because I just want more Justice League. I want more of the chemistry between the characters, and I really wished that Warner Bros. Would have trusted this property and realized that if it was 2.5 hours long, fans would have gone to see it anyways, because that's how much we wanted to see these characters on screen. And if there is this director's cut that comes out with the DVD release, I'm going to buy it, because, again, I just want more Justice League, and I really thought that this movie would have benefited from a longer running time. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a gigantic spoiler. I normally don't do spoilers in my review, but I really want to talk about this. So if you don't want the movie to be ruined for you, there's your spoiler warning. Fast forward, mute until you don't see the spoiler warning on the stream. So, again, there's your warning. Obviously, if you saw Batman v Superman, Superman dies in that movie at the very end. Spoiler warning, I know. But he gets brought back in this movie, and I'm fine with the way he gets brought back. I know a couple other people have problems with it, but I was fine with the way he got brought back. But the scene where he comes back to life is my favorite scene in the entire movie, because when he comes back, he's not too sure about the situation. He ends up fighting the Justice League, like the entire team, and he just owns everybody. And there's so many great things they do in this sequence that it's just the best scene in the entire film. But after all that, and he's figured out what's going on, and he comes back in his all Superman glory, the Superman to the rescue scene at the very end. This is a Superman that I have been waiting to see in this new cinematic universe since Man of Steel. I mean, Man of Steel, I love Man of Steel, but he wasn't the Superman that I've always wanted, and I realized a lot of other people share that opinion with me. It then comes along Batman v Superman, and I was really hoping they would have made that jump to the Superman that I really wanted to see, but he's just this joyless hero, and he doesn't stand for what his S stands for, which is hope. This is a Superman that really gives people hope, because this Superman smiles in this movie, and I don't ever remember him smiling really in Batman v Superman. He's cracking jokes, he's having fun. I really love this iteration of Superman. I really feel that they got Superman right in this movie. Give me this Superman in his own standalone movie. I'm begging for it, and I'm thinking that a lot of other Superman fans really want it too. So Warner Brothers, just give me this Superman movie, please. Don't call it Man of Steel 2. Call it Superman, because this is the Superman that I wanted to see, and this is the Superman that I love seeing on screens. So if you can temper your expectations and take this movie for what it is, you will have a good time with it. Sure, it has its flaws, but I feel like the good far outweighs the bad, and there's enough in this film that leaves me wanting more. And the future for DC films definitely looks to be on the up. So I'm giving Justice League 3.5 out of 5 stars. So I can easily see myself rounding my score up to 4 instead of 3.5 after repeat viewings, but I feel that at the very top of the cinematic universe, I feel like Man of Steel and Wonder Woman are at the very top, in my opinion, and then would come Justice League, and then BVS, Suicide Squad. But for right now, it's right below Wonder Woman and Man of Steel for me, and I can easily see myself giving it a higher score in the future. But now it's your turn. If you saw Justice League, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like and share it, and to stay up to date on all the videos going up on this channel, give that subscribe button a click. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.